Hello, my name is Brett Bivens,
And I'm Thomas Logan.
and we are from University of Tennessee at Martin, and we are presenting our Haunted House Companion app. Now, this project is an optional tool for haunted houses to deliver additional experiences to their customers.
So you may be wondering why we chose to do this particular project. The reason is that I've actually been involved with haunted houses for over a decade now, and it's a really growing industry. As a matter of fact, right now they're estimating that per year, just in 1 month, the haunted house industry pulls in about $500 million. And being around haunted houses, there's one thing that you learn really quick. Everybody shows up at once, which means you have huge crowds, and huge crowds means there's gonna be long lines. So the biggest issue with the haunted house is keeping people entertained before they actually get in, because those long lines tend to lead to boredom for people after they've been standing in them for sometimes multiple hours. So we figured everybody nowadays has a smartphone with them pretty much everywhere they go. Why not use that smartphone to give an interactive experience, to give an extra option for entertainment that doesn't cost a ton of money for the attraction?
Now, why would a business want to use our app? Now, we wanted to give, like Thomas was saying, additional experiences for the customer, so that is one way for our app to use. It's also a direct way that you'll see once we do the demo later on, and there's a direct way to buy tickets through this app. And it also creates excitement for the user. Like one example that we're kind of playing off of this was from a amusement park in Florida called Universal Studios. And on one of the rides, you're able to use a little attraction to scare another person while they're waiting in line. And instead of just scaring another person waiting in line, we thought, why don't you just scare a person that's already in the haunted house to give them just a unique way for them to be scared. And also, you'll see that we have some email registration and changing, so that will give the business marketing opportunities to interact with their customers later, either before or after the haunted house, so they can do promos or anything such as that. Now, during the building of our program, we use different languages and protocols. We used HTML, CSS, PHP, MySQL, HTTP, Arduino, and RTSP.
And going over the hardware that we used real quick for the video feeds, we've got 3 Wisecam version 2 Black Edition cameras and 3 32GB micro SD cards, one for each camera. On the animatronic side of things, we've got a Node MCU module for each animatronic, a relay board, and the animatronic itself as well as the wiring to connect it all. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Node MCU board, it is basically a small microcontroller board. You can think of it pretty much as a tiny standalone computer, and it's got its own processor here and Wi-Fi built in, as well as input and output pins, silver pins here, and you can connect stuff, buttons, anything you can think of really to those pins. They have direct access to the processor, and that lets it control all kinds of stuff. And then for the actual hardware diagram itself, we've got the Node MCU, and that is plugged into just a standard cell phone charger via a micro USB cable. You have power and ground to power your relay board, and then you have your trigger wire, which gets a signal whenever the Node MCU sends the signal to the board. We also wired in a hardwired button, and that is used for debugging, testing. If you push the button and your stuff goes off, then you know your physical connections are still good, and you know that it's a software problem, and that's pretty much the purpose that serves. And then over on the other side here, you'll see there's a common wire that is constantly providing power, and then a normally open wire. That normally open wire, when it receives a power signal, when the relay trips, that's what actually turns the prop on here. And because of how we wired everything, you can just simply swap out this wiring and you can control a completely different thing. So it makes customization of this really easy.
For the project structure of our app, we have 3 main sections. You'll notice during our demo later on that we have multiple web pages. Those are mainly used for extra examples or fluff, but we wanted to use these are the 3 main core parts of our website. The first one is the app landing, which deals with the registration of the user in the email database side of the website. You then have the app home.html, which is the main web page of our website that goes to that allows you to go to all other sections of the website. And then the scarecam.html is where you'll find the live webcams that we'll also use to look at the animatronics. And each webcam has their own PHP file, which manages them, so that allows the user to interact with these live webcams.
Alright, so we're going to jump in and take a look at a real-world usage case here, and to do that we're going to go over an example where we go with a activation of the monkey animatronic. And so to start out, we're going to go with the user experience, which would be the front end. That's actually very simple. The user just navigates to the scare page that they want to activate, and they hit the scare button. And here we're going to look at the app in real-world use. And this is a different prop. It is the first option instead of the monkey option. So let's take a look real quick. Now if you listen, then you're going to hear the relays turn on and off. You'll hear that in the background. And you'll notice that the prop turned on almost instantly there, but if you look at the screen, it hasn't updated in the video feed yet, and that's the latency that we were talking about that we're trying to get taken care of for future improvements. There you go. As you can see, it activates through the online interface, and it's a very quick activation, so if we can get the video to work, then we'll be in good shape. Alright, so now let's take a look at what's going on behind the scenes of things. And to start out, we're going to look at what's actually going on the physical hardware itself. So the code that's actually running on the Node MCU units, the little standalone computers that we talked about, sends a HTTP request to the web address for the PHP script that we wrote for whichever prop it needs to activate. And that checks the trigger status of the prop status table with the row that matches the name of that prop. So in this case, that name would be the monkey row. The PHP script runs, and it sends a MySQL query to the online database that contains that prop status table. Once the MySQL query runs, it checks to see the trigger status in the monkey row, and it returns what that status is. Now, for our script, that status can only be a 1 or a 0, and it will output that to its web address. So if you were to type in the web address of one of these PHP scripts, you're going to get nothing but a 1 or a 0 with just a plain white background, and that's the only thing that it outputs. So then the HTTP request pulls pulls the elements from that web address, which is just that single value, and if it has a 0, then it makes sure that the relay is turned off, and if it gets a 1, then it makes sure that the relay gets turned on. And behind the scenes on the back end for the web content on the server itself, the standard flow of things would be that the scare button gets pushed, the PHP script that we've written triggers to activate that particular prop, and it does that by sending a MySQL command to the online database. By default, that value that it changes is set to a 0, so that MySQL command changes that 0 to a 1. The PHP script then waits for 3 seconds, and it does that to make sure that the Arduino has time to run a query while that value is active, and that we don't miss any kind of activations that somebody wants to do. And then after that 3 seconds, it changes that 1 back to a 0, and then it waits for you to push the button again.
Okay, we are now going to switch over to our live demo, so we will do that just right now.
Okay, so now let's take a look at an actual working example of the app. Now, we did choose to show it to you guys this way just because showing it on an actual Android device wasn't really practical. That was going to result in us showing you a video of a cell phone, and it wasn't going to be a very good quality video, so this was the better option for us. Now we're starting out on the home screen here, and as you can see, we've got 5 different options across the top. We're going to go into those in just a second, But the home screen here would be where you would put any important announcements or sales or anything that you want the customer to see, because this is where everybody's going to start out before they go anywhere else in the app. So let's just start out from left to right here and go across the options that we've got. The first option is the tickets option. When the user clicks on that, it brings them to another page here, directly to where they can purchase the tickets. They don't have to remember any special URL to go to. They don't have to know what company is selling the tickets. They don't have to know anything other than they want to buy a ticket, and the app takes care of everything else for them. Second, we've got the directions option. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to let Brett talk about it real quick.
The directions options is just simply a Google Maps embedded code. Google Maps allows you to copy their own embedded code and put it into your own HTML websites. We just picked a local haunted house called the Fear Factory, and there's two options. They either click through the Google Maps, or they can just copy and paste the address that we provide into their own GPS system.
Alright, and then we're going to move right along to the story here. This page would be where the haunted house owner would put the backstory to the haunted house if they are a themed haunted attraction, and a lot of them are going that way. So this would give the people that are visiting a better idea of the history behind the haunted house and draw them into the show more to give them that suspension of disbelief. And then we're going to skip scare activation for just a minute, and we're going to go to the settings page and take a look at that. So here you have two different options. You can change your email address or remove your email address from the list. So if we go to the change email address, you'll see that all that's required to do that is to enter your old email and your new email, and then a PHP script runs a MySQL query, sees if that old email is in the table anywhere, and if it is, it replaces it with your new one. And then if we take a look at the remove page here, the only thing that's required on that is the email that you want to take off of the mailing list. You just enter that and you hit remove, and similar to the other, it's a PHP script that runs a MySQL query to see if that email is in the table. If it's in the table, it takes out that entire row that it finds that on. And now let's look at what we've been focusing on for most of this semester, and that is the scare activation. You'll see that there are potentially 4 options. We have 3 up and running right now, and we're going to take a look at one of those. We've already looked at Scare 1 previously and Scare 3 in our example, so let's just go with Scare 2 and give it a little bit of screen time too. You'll see when you click on that, it will pull that up, and you've got a live video feed that pops up right here. Directly under that, you've got your Scare button that will actually activate the prop. So our live feed is up and running now. We're going to hit that Scare button, and you'll see that there is a bit of latency here. We're trying to work on getting that straightened out, but you'll see that it does activate the animatronic. And the key thing here is that I am not at home right now. I'm in Texas, sitting in a hotel room, and I just activated that prop that's in Martin, Tennessee. So I just turned that on remotely through the internet from several hundred miles away. So we do have that interface up and working just like it's supposed to. Alright, and to wrap things up, we're going to go over some future improvements that we're going to work on going forward with the app. The first thing is to improve the latency in the video feeds, because as you saw, there's a 5 to 7 second delay there, and we need to get rid of that to make this viable for a real-time app.
The next is make a dedicated RTSP server. Hopefully that would also help with the latency issues within the webcams.
And then we want to upgrade the app's feature where it uses Google Maps to launch a preloaded Google map to get directions to the haunted house, where it uses the user's current location and pre-fills the haunted house as the destination.
And we also want to add a user registration system. So for email and name, as you saw, we only have options to change and remove emails currently.
Then we're wanting to remove the button for the scare activation page and make that a hidden feature that's only accessible to certain people when we want to show it to them, and we're planning on replacing that with a media page to show video and pictures from previous seasons.
Lastly, we would want to add a sort of a roulette system where only a certain amount of people can gain access to the webcams instead of just anyone that access to our website, so any customer, so make it a specific few. So I hope that you enjoyed our presentation, and I hope that you liked it.